Your Partner in Success Radio is a free business podcast with host Denise Griffitts. It's all about great stories, conversation, and context to help you move your business and life forward with actionable tips and advice from her guest experts. To listen and subscribe, just find us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your podcasts.
Good morning. Welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio. I am your host, Denise Griffitts, and today we are joined by Bennett Maxwell. He is the founder and chairman of Dirty Dough. I love that title. It's a cookie franchise with a unique twist. Now, Bennett's journey started in solar energy before he took the reins of Dirty Dough, building it into a fast-growing brand known for its stuffed, layered cookies. And the tagline, "It's what's on the inside that matters." But beyond cookies, Bennett is passionate about mental health, advocacy, franchising, and personal growth, which he promotes in his work and his podcast, Deeper Than Dough. So join us as we talk with Bennett about his entrepreneurial journey, the values behind his business, and his insights on creating success. Bennett, good morning. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today on Your Partner in Success Radio. But before we get started, can you tell our audience a bit about you and how do you like to show up in the world?
Great question, and thank you for having me. And man, do I feel comfortable and welcome on your show. You're very inviting, so thank you for
Oh,
that.
thank you. I love this show. And I get to meet people like you from all over the world. How happy am I?
Yep, that's fun. Fun. Okay, so I grew up in Utah. I was number seven of nine kids, single mom, most seven boys. So I had a brother 2 years younger than me, 2 years older than me, and 4 years older than me. And we were a little gang of entrepreneurs, kind of from the get-go, selling lemonade and shaved ice on the corner, candy bars in elementary, um, snow shovels, lawn aeration, door to door. So, anyways, that's kind of how it started out. And then it led me to Mormon mission in Tijuana for 2 years, knocking doors, came home, started the door to door sales world, which led me to solar. And then it led me to the cookies that you introduced. So, but more importantly, outside of all of that, I am a husband to an amazing wife, and I have three really cool kids, 8, 6, and 4. How I like to show up, man, that's a good question. I like to show up as genuine and as authentic. Sometimes that means a little maybe unprepared, of just kind of going with the flow. At least that's how I try to show up in the last year, since last year was my hardest year and I got my butt kicked in life and business. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to show up still, I guess.
I think you're showing up just fine. And
Thank
listen,
you.
we all get our butts kicked. I'm in the middle of that right now, and I did it to myself. I've got nobody to blame but me, but I changed paths a little bit. And I knew it was going to cause some not financial problems, but income problems. I knew it. I didn't care. I needed to move to a slightly different direction. So I'm fighting my way back out of that, but I'm learning so much through it. Do I like it? No. Am I going to keep
Yeah,
on going? You bet.
I like that. Yeah, it's, I guess before, like, how do I want to show up? I want to show up as, I'm at my best, and I'm hustling and I'm always trying and I'm working hard and this and that. And then I guess, halfway through my career right now, I'm like, wait, I don't think that really works a ton to just be go, 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 go. But that's how it mainly showed up in my life. And then I guess it's led me to the realization of the hamster wheel. It's like I'm just gonna go a little bit harder till I get the next little thing that I want, or check off the next item on my to-do list, and everything's gonna get better. I found, at least for me, that's all false and that's all an illusion. So now it's not showing up as a hard worker and go, 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 but it's more of accepting what happens, try your best, and yeah, see what happens after that, I guess.
And how you connect with the world. I think a lot of people miss that. Listen, I'm an A-type personality. I annoy myself. I really do. I'll say, Denise, take a seat. Let's have a talk. And then I have the talk. But you're right. And I've done the same thing. It's like, I just need one more hour. Oh, I can do this. I can do this. But I find that my creativity just goes straight out the window. I'm exhausted. I'm trying too hard. And I'm really not connecting anywhere. I'm just throwing spaghetti at the ceiling and hoping it doesn't land in my hair.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely relate to that a ton. You're like, let's just try everything and one thing's bound to work. And if I just try to force everything, one of my forceful moves will go through. And then it's, well, does life really need to be forced? Are we here to, get one up on life, or are we here just to live in and experience it? So that's kind of the personal transformation, kind of outside of the business. But well, it's not really outside of the business. Just like what you said, when you're going, and you don't have a time to stop and think, like, where is your creativity? If you're always in hyperdrive and cortisol levels high and adrenaline, and your nervous system's on fire, like, yeah, when do you have the time to make those bigger decisions? Like, which kind of reminds me of a I think it was a Jeff Bezos thing. He's like, I get paid. Obviously, he gets paid a lot of money. He doesn't get paid for the amount of hours that he works, but it's like, I only need to make a few decisions a quarter, but they're high impact decisions, and I just need to make sure that I'm making those in the best way that I can. But it's not about the grind kind of hustle culture. I was in that for a while, but I'm not a believer of it anymore. As far as like, I don't think it's gonna give you what you think it'll give you or what you want.
It won't. It will wear you out. You're going to be cranky all the time. Look, and I live in the deep south, so right now it's spring. We get spring about every 5 days or so, and then it gets humid again. Right now it's spring. I don't know how long it's going to last, but the windows are open. But let me tell you, when the humidity lands and it's here to stay, I get so crabby that I don't dare go outside. I can understand why people take their cars and look at people and go, I don't like you. And then they just go. It's awful, but when you can actually replicate that by going all the time and wearing yourself out. And I don't suggest that you replicate that. I really don't.
Yes. Yes.
And stay out of, vehicles. Take your key, hide it until you feel better.
Yeah, but it's been a fun journey. To kind of wrap up a little bit, I guess on the dirty dough, it was a pretty wild ride. I mean, all of this has been really quick. I started my solar company in January of 2020, so I only ran it for 18 months because, again, I'm go 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 go, like, let's build an exit as quickly as possible. So I sold that within 18 months. I'd purchased Dirty Dough, and it was a single location with the idea of franchising it. Took about a year to franchise. Hired some a good team, got some good advice, went to market. We sold 400 something franchises, opened up about 100 of them, closed about 20 of them, all within 2.5 years, which was way which is 10 times more than I ever thought or hoped to do. And then I ended up selling that business to a company called Craveworthy Brands out of Chicago.
Yeah, I saw that. I wondered because I see that you're still on their website, but I wasn't sure
Yeah.
what that path was.
Yeah, so Craveworthy Brands is like a restaurant portfolio company. They have a ton of, I mean, I think we were their like 15th brand. Since they acquired us, they've acquired a few others. Big Chicken, which is Shaquille O'Neal's, they partnered and acquired a piece of that as well. So it's exciting. Like, I'm strapped now to a bigger rocket ship, a scarier rocket ship that's going faster, and and still feels, like everything in the startup world is always like held together by duct tape. So yeah, I sold that in September and stayed on to do franchise sales or franchise development for Dirty Dough, but also for those other brands. And then I formed a franchise brokerage. And anyways, I really like the sales piece of the world of communication, and I think that's really fun to dive in and discover what somebody really wants through good questions, and then trying to solve those needs, through a product. And I'm good at that. And then the other side of the business is, the operation side, which I'm good for as long as my attention span is good for, right?
Oh,
Which
I
is
know how that works. It's like,
it's some
okay, I have mastered this. Now what?
yeah. So it's like, I love coming up with a cool idea and a standard operating procedure around it. And, I'll get through 20% of it. And I'm like, okay, now I'm on to the next idea. Can somebody finish this project for me? So I figured I'm going to stay in my lane, and do what I like to do and what I am best at, which is the sales piece, rather than trying to do the sales and the operations at the same time.
Well, that makes sense. So walk us through some key decisions or challenges you faced when you were transforming Dirty Dough into a franchise and where you see yourself going now.
Yeah. The big question with Dirty Dough and franchising it is like, how easy do you make it for us as corporate versus how easy do you make it for the franchisees? And in the cookie world, like looking at the competitors Crumble, they do a great job, right? They good brand, really good marketing. The franchise opportunity though is, here's the playbook and here's the recipe. You go buy everything, um, store your raw ingredients, make everything from scratch, weigh it by hand with teenagers and all of that. So I think it's very labor heavy, and a lot more expensive to open for the franchisee. But for corporate, it was a lot easier because it's just like, here's our game plan and a recipe. Dirty Dough, I want to go a little bit of a different way and model it more after Mrs. Fields, which is a centralized production. Um, and that I think that was a really good decision, but it was a challenging decision because it was, I don't know, I think we'd spend almost $2 million before we opened our first store. Like for the time I bought that
Ouch.
company
Yeah.
to
I'm
building the
wincing with you,
facility.
just so you know.
Yeah,
I just
it's a lot of
winced.
it's a lot of risk. And I mean, these cookie stores only cost like, 250,000, 300,000 to open up. So spending a few $1 million beforehand, getting the team. But the thought was, if I make all of the cookies, I can get economies of scale as I order ingredients. And then I can use machines to make specialized cookies and have it more, quality control consistent. Then I could ship those out to the franchisee, allowing the franchisee to now operate at a 500 square feet because you don't need to store everything, as far as like flour, sugar, butter, all of the raw ingredients. And then you only need an oven. You don't need all the equipment and then the mixer. So that was a big decision. I think, again, it was the right decision. It was a scary decision. But looking back, that is a big barrier of entry to the competition. Who else is dumb enough to, go all in on a big production facility and buy trucks and try to do logistics nationwide when you only have one store open? Now, yeah, we had sold maybe 100 stores at the, very quickly, but at the same time, like it was a very big risk. Um, Now where we're going from that, I mean, I think again that is the model. Simplicity is the model, and corporate taking more of the risk, and the ops, so the franchisees could focus a little bit more on their business and not on all the back end, is definitely where we're continuing to push, and we're adding other products, which is fun, but trying to keep everything very simple. I mean, my background was, again, door-to-door sales, solar. I've never worked in food or franchising, and then all of a sudden I own a cookie company. So that cookie company needs to be simple enough for, a dumb door-to-door guy to to be able to run it.
Well, and I love the idea of franchises. I keep looking at them. I've had a couple of people come on this show over the years, and every time I speak to somebody who's franchising or they're a franchise expert, I take notes like you would not believe. But I've never done it. One day I'm going to. I swear I'm going to, just not there right now. But I find it's a fascinating way to do business. And the way you're describing it, and I just wrote down keep it simple, stupid, that makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, it's kind of going back to, as an entrepreneur, you wear a bunch of hats, usually all of them, right? Starting
Oh,
out,
yeah.
and
Yep. Including
be
cleaning the toilet. I'm warning
including
you right
cleaning the
now.
toilet.
Yeah.
You're the
Anybody says, "Oh,
repairman.
I'm going to start a business because I want more time." Sit down, take a breath, and think about what you just said, because that's not going to happen right away.
Yeah, yeah. Go Google and see if that's the truth. And if you gain time when you start a business, it's like,
You
oh,
do not. And you don't sleep well either.
yeah. And there's just so many things, and you don't even know the things you don't know, obviously, until you kind of encounter those. So, um, like me saying before, like I've recognized my skill sets and what I like to do and what I'm good at and what I don't like to do, or maybe don't like as much and I'm not as good at, like, again, sales versus operations. And then if you've identified that, and if you want to, you can place, a value on your time based on what activity you're doing. Like if I'm creating standard operating procedures and hiring people versus if I'm on a sales call or raising capital, like which one is more valuable for the company. And I was able to identify that. So franchising is a little bit similar to like, okay, well, what am I good at? I'm good at sales and marketing. but I'm not good at operations. So can I go find a playbook, right? A franchise system that already has all the operations in place, and they just need somebody to run the business, so you could you don't have to wear all the hats. Now it's still a business, it's still full time, it's still not, something that you're just going to buy and hire somebody and forget about, but you don't have to figure out everything, which is nice. So starting a business, I think franchising is great. Not in general, but like if you find a good franchise, I think that's the way to go, because they haven't figured out, especially because you could go find brands that have been around for 2 decades with 100 locations. It's like, seems like they probably haven't figured out. Give it a go, learn from their systems, and then on your next go around, either just double down and scale in the franchise system, because that's really what franchising is good for, going from 1 to 5 locations. Typically, if you buy a franchise, you're buying yourself a job if you buy one, right? And then as you scale, you build an infrastructure and you can kind of work your way out of that. So, and then once you get to that point, it's like, okay, well, now I've learned systems and processes and leadership and communication styles from this organization. Now maybe I want to go try it myself in a different vertical, because now I am prepared that I need to get my business on Google Business before I open. And I do need to make sure I'm on DoorDash 3 weeks before, because it takes forever. Like all of those little things, you get all those kinks out opening up your first time business in a franchise system. And then after, if you wanted to try it by yourself, I think that should greatly increase the likelihood for success.
I am absolutely fascinated with. So, Bennett, what inspired you to start Deeper Than Dough, your podcast? Because I'm a podcaster. I'm very passionate about what I do. And as you know, this thing is 17 years old. It's old enough to drive or have a debutante ball. I haven't worked it out yet, but something's going to happen with it. But what kind of conversations do you like to have on the podcast? What are you bringing to your audience?
Yeah, so I've been doing it for about 2.5 years. Deeper Than Dough, it ties in with Dirty Dough, but it's more than money. Dough is in money. And it speaks to really exactly to my story of solar. So it was moved to San Diego running the solar company, and I really wanted to be a millionaire before 30. Why? I really never thought about it other than like, well, why not? Like, doesn't everybody? But there wasn't really that much thought. It's just kind of like, that's what I'm supposed to want, I think.
You wanted it,
So
but you didn't plan for it.
yeah, so
Okay, got it.
I'm I'm going, building the solar company and just willing to work all the time and willing to sacrifice time with my family and my spouse, um, all for that, $1 million goal. Because once I get that goal, then life's perfect. So, what do you know? Somebody wants to buy the solar company. So I sell it, and I feel amazing. I achieve my goal. And the way that it feels amazing is your brain has dopamine and other neurotransmitters, but the issue is those are fleeting, right? They have to be fleeting. Your brain receives dopamine when it smells a flower, and then it has to go back to baseline of 0. So next time, now when you eat a steak, you get dopamine again, right? Like that's how your body's designed. Well, I didn't know that. I thought this dopamine rush for being a millionaire before 30 was going to last the rest of my life. Well, it doesn't, right? So after that, I'm like, crap, I had my goal on the wrong target. Like I hit my goal, but it's not giving me what I wanted, and I didn't define what I wanted. Um, so I started like really trying to dig deep and like, well, what do I want? Well, I want to feel a certain way, right? It wasn't about the material things. It's how I thought the material things would make me feel, but I never connected that. So then I thought, okay, so now it's about emotions. Weird. I've ignored emotions my entire life. I'm going to go start seeing a therapist. And that was like the best thing. This was like 5 years ago, and I still see a therapist. Because analyzing human behavior, like what do we do that's not with the goal of an emotional state? Like everything we do is we just want to feel a certain way. And it turns out like there's these professionals that insurance usually pays for, and you could go talk to them and they're trained on how to help you feel the way that you want to feel. I'm like, oh, that's kind of the key to life. So long story short, after that, it was, I need to find something deeper. And I landed on joy and fulfillment. Not $1 million, but I wanted $1 million because I wanted to have more joy and fulfillment in life. And then I threw despite life's dirtiness. So, to tie in to Dirty Dough, but also that speaks to my journey as far as, despite life's dirtiness is finding joy and fulfillment despite life's dirtiness in myself and others. Don't wait to sell your solar company to find joy and fulfillment. And then you also need to focus on yourself first and then focus on everybody else after. So that became my mission statement, the company's mission statement, and then the podcast was an extension of that. Like, hey, as entrepreneurs, why are we sacrificing nights and weekends with our families today to maybe have nights and weekends with them later? Like, why would you ever sacrifice a for sure thing you have today for something you might have in the future? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Let's just be with our family and do the things we love today along the journey rather than focusing on the destination. So that, in not a nutshell, what's a lot bigger in a watermelon shell, is what the Deeper the Dough podcast is.
And I love that. And listen, you'll hear me say this all the time, get your voice heard. To me, podcasting is marketing 101. There is no question. I can leverage your audience with this. You can leverage my audience with this. We reach a whole heck of a lot more people than a website. I'm a web developer. I'm not trashing websites. I build them all the time. I build them in my sleep.
Mm.
Honestly, I do. But there are so many ways to get out there, get your messaging heard, and meet and connect with other people. And I'm going to say it again. Podcasting is marketing 101. If you're not podcasting, write it down, go do it, get busy. But with your podcast, and I know we weren't going to really talk about this, but I think it's a very important thing. It's part of who you are and how you're connecting with the world. So are there any particular questions or feedback that you get where people are going, oh my God, I didn't know about that. I never thought of that. I mean, you're almost educating, aren't you?
Yes. This is what got me through a lot of the am I going to go bankrupt next month thought, like constantly. Like, am I going to find 100 grand this month? Because if not, I'm going under, and that's kind of the status that I lived in for a good 2 years while I was begging every investor for money. Crap. Denise, I'm sorry. We're going to have to edit that up because I just lost my train of thought. Or maybe we
No, no,
won't.
no, no. We'll leave it alone because I lose my train of thought all the time. It's like I walked out to the dining room and just got lost, and I come back and go, oh, there we go. You know what I do? You're going to think I'm a lunatic, but what I will do when my brain just shuts down, and it does it regularly, periodically during the day, especially as a web developer, I'm in front of monitors all the time, and my brain just goes, I'm
Mhm.
done. So I will walk deliberately. I will get up. I will walk to my refrigerator. It's a big double door refrigerator, French doors. And I open both doors and I stick as much of my torso and my face in there as I will fit.
Okay, I like that. You get cold.
Yeah, well, I get cold, and it's also a quick meditation. I call it my open refrigerator door meditation. It's a reset. It's a reset. It's like, oh, okay, now I can go back because now I'm no longer worried about what it is that I can't remember. Or if I still can't remember it, I don't care. I've
Oh, I
cooled
love
down.
that.
Try it. It works.
I don't know. I know it works because I duck my face. I have an ice bath in my garage, but if I don't have time to like get all the way in, I'll just duck my face in because if you get your body cold, especially face, there's something called the
Right.
mammalian reflex,
Yep.
or in your throat, the vagus nerve, it'll trigger responses in your body, the parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and relaxation. So like,
Right.
yes, it works for sure. And I like that. I like the open refrigerator meditation. I'm going to be doing that.
Yeah,
And then my
do
kids are
it.
going to be like, Dad, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just cooling down so I
Well,
can do
yep.
more.
And I know I'm done when the doors start beeping. It's like, okay, I'm leaving now. When they
Yes.
start telling me it's time to close the doors. Years ago, you just reminded me of something that I read years ago about Paul Newman, the actor Paul Newman. And
Um,
he had one of his daily things that he would do is he would fill a large bowl, like a mixing bowl with ice water, and dunk his face in there. And I thought,
yeah.
huh. Now, I won't do it because I don't want water in my nose or my ears. Ice packs work. Open refrigerator door works, but that does make sense. And I couldn't figure out why he was doing it. That was he tightening he was gorgeous to look at, let's face it. I was like, oh, that's how you get beautiful. You stick your your face in ice.
That's yeah. And I went to the the movies last night. We're just walking by and there was a Tom Cruise. I don't know what the movie was, but I look at that dude and I'm like, man, have you not aged since I've been watching you in movies in the last 20 years? Like,
I know.
what's,
Did you see Top Gun Maverick?
yes, I loved it.
Oh,
It was
I
great.
actually went to the theater to see it. I had not seen the first one, and everywhere on social media was when this, was going to show up in theaters. And I had friends over for the weekend, so we, bought Top Gun on Amazon, watched it, and I went, "Oh, I had never seen the movie. I'm not a TV watcher. I'm not a movie watcher. Give me a book, I'm all happy." But so that Monday we went to the matinee, and I'm telling you, we came out of there and none of us could even speak. We were
Yeah,
absolutely silent going back to the parking lot.
I also had not seen it. Neither did my wife, the original one. So we did the same thing. We watched it, and then I think it made the new one that much better, because it's kind of fresh in your mind, and you're like, wow, this is a lot. This is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. See, we both need to go open the refrigerators now because we are off. But it doesn't matter because to me, the thing about my podcast, your podcast, getting our voices heard is the conversations. I won't listen to a podcast that's like, well, Bennett, what did you think about this? Like, oh my God, really? It's a conversation and
Yeah.
it's getting to know you. It's letting my audience get to know you.
Oh, I now full loop. I just stuck my head in the refrigerator and remembered what I was going to say, or the question. As far you mentioned education on the podcast,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. See, now
um,
I forgot too.
so bringing it, I do feel like it's a big education, and I yes, I like the practical advice, but more than anything, I'm wanting to educate other entrepreneurs on, hey, you're feeling like the world's falling apart. Everybody is feeling like the world's falling apart or did at some point of their business. I shouldn't say, with an asterisk, not everybody, but most people. And that's how I got through a lot of it was listening to a podcast called Business Wars. And it talks about Walmart versus Kmart and how Walmart almost went bankrupt, but they didn't get $2 million that same night. And it was an hour before midnight. And FedEx gambled all his last money away. In order to see if he could make payroll. He only had 6 grand and his payroll's 14,000. So he went to Vegas and he was lucky enough to make payroll. And then that's how FedEx survived. And, you learn all of these stories or Nike going out of business. So the types of questions that I'm asking on the podcast are like, what are the most proud accomplishments and moments of your life, from a business perspective? And then how long did it last to try to get people to like, oh, even if I achieve my $1 billion goal, like, let me just listen to somebody else who's achieved a similar goal and tell me that that's only going to bring me happiness for a few hours or a few weeks. So just kind of learning from the stories of others. So people, I group you into people like me, stubborn people. Like a lot of times, if you're type A, you need to go figure it out yourself and fail yourself. But anytime that we don't have to do that and we can learn from somebody else in a business perspective, or same thing like with the other question on the flip side is like, what's the hardest thing that you've ever gone through? And looking back, would you change that? And the answer pretty much always is no. It's like, no, that's when I grew the most. But when you're in the depths of hell, you're not thinking like, oh, yes, I'm happy because I'm growing the most right now. you know, so trying to fast forward and like in my eyes, like, okay, what's this entrepreneur's hard times and good times? And realizing that neither of them are that good and neither of them are that bad. So why am I so stressed about that? Let's just focus on the day to day again, rather the journey rather than the destination.
And that, again, that makes perfect sense to me. And I wanted to ask you because I take a lot of notes when I'm listening to my guests. Gratitude. It took me the longest kind of time to really lean into gratitude, serious gratitude. I mean, I was always like, oh, yeah, that's great. Thanks. But I had a man on this podcast, and I tell this story quite a bit. This was years ago. And when he got on my show, he was telling me, well, he told me in the pre-interview that he had been told he had cancer, pretty bad cancer. There's no good cancer, but this one was go home and get your affairs in order.
Hmm.
And he said, okay. And he did, I think he had the surgery. He refused radiation because in his words, I didn't want to be cooked from the inside out, which again, I wouldn't do radiation either, but yeah, it's neither here nor there. But anyway, he came on my show 5 years after that diagnosis. And he said he did it. He did some of the doctor's recommendations, but he mastered what he called massive gratitude. And I went,
That's
oh, and I had never even considered that that was something I needed to do daily, morning, evening, sometimes in the middle of the day. Massive gratitude. It changes who you are.
I've completely agree with that, and I've heard that so many different times on so many cool studies that really support that on like getting your. I mean, our entire life is perspective, right? Every problem we have is a just from your perspective. And what I see that gratitude does, at least in my life, like the more I'm grateful for things, the better my perspective is. Because maybe I'm mad that I didn't get, 2 hamburgers, but if I could change my perspective to somebody in a different part of the country or world that doesn't have any hamburgers, then I'm now grateful for my 1 hamburger. So yes, I'm with you on that though. I need to be more, I guess, grateful more often. I think that'll definitely help me out.
Well, what I started doing was getting very deliberate about it. So I have a gratitude journal on the table in front of my couch with a pen. I have a gratitude journal next to my bed because by the time I don't sleep well. It's not one of my stronger skills. I catnap. I may sleep for a couple of hours. I may sleep if I sleep 4 hours in a row, I'm probably sick. I'm going to need some time down.
Really?
Yeah, I don't cope with it well. I never have. It's 2 hours here, 3 hours there, 5 hours max. I'm good to go. Anything beyond that, I'm probably going to need to see a doctor because there's something wrong. But once I'm ready to go to sleep at night, when I can feel that I'm ready to go to sleep at night, I have two things. I'll grab my other gratitude journal and I'll write down, what was my day like? What happened? What made a big difference? And then I will look at my ceiling fan. I close everything off, close off the lights. I don't have my iPad or phone even in that room. I just won't. And I will look at my ceiling fan and I'm talking to God. I'm talking to spirits. I'm talking to whoever is in that ceiling fan listening to me.
Hmm.
It's kind of like the refrigerator thing. It's there for a reason. And I will literally say my prayers, my brief prayers out loud because you don't know who's listening. It might just be you. And I'm turning anything that happened over the day that I could not solve, or I'm really questioning maybe my own judgment, anything at all. And I'll turn it over literally to my subconscious for review. And I found out later in life that, this is an old thought, but thought I was just so brilliant. I taught myself to do it. But at 3:18, Bennett, I'm telling you, 3:18, I wake up and the answer is right there without
I
thinking.
that's so cool. That's so cool. I'm probably heard that for the first time in the last 6 months as I get into more of the. Again, I've gone through my own little transformation. Not little. I think I'm a different person than I was 3 years ago. Including I was 310 pounds, and I'm at about 185 right now. So not
Whoa,
just
good for
mentally,
you.
yeah, not just mentally, but also physically. And
That's
part of
impressive.
the
Good for you.
thank you. Part of the I guess a nightly meditation that I'm doing is the reviewing the day. I need to be writing it down though as well, which I love because a lot of times you don't know what actually went well or not because it's so quick to just like we're doing whatever we're doing and then we get on to the next thing and then that's it, right? Like you're never actually reviewing and what went well and what didn't go well, so you could do more of what you like and more of what you don't like. Anyways, part of the meditation though is also like closing out your day, which I love what you said, and it's like it's also like about embodying the emotions that you want to feel today in the life you want to feel today because you can get your body to feel high levels of whatever emotion, right? Joy with good focus, and your body doesn't know the difference if you're thinking about a joyful activity that already happened or maybe happened and if it's actually happening. Either way, the physiological response is there, so you can kind of get your body in those kind of cool states. Anyways, but problems unsolved, he says let it go into the void in this meditation, which is the subconscious. It's the
Right.
the
Right.
space between a nucleus and an electron of an atom, and it's just the nothingness in there. And you kind of clear your mind, and then once you get the chatter out of your mind, like I guess the compulsive thoughts, and you could quiet a little bit by, one of those techniques, you kind of let it go, then you're open to that creativity and that like high level of consciousness thinking. So that's what I think, like, as you're saying this, I'm like, oh, you're living proof, I guess. At 318, you're letting it go at night, getting your mind in a great state, going to sleep, going into different brain states, and then coming up and like, oh, boom, there's the answer. Now it's back to me. So you just gave me a lot of confidence on the path that I'm on. Thank you.
Oh, it works. I mean, and I started doing this when I was a kid. Nobody taught me. I just knew to do it. I've always known that my subconscious was there and it was way smarter than me. So I needed to find a way to tap into it. But let me give you an example. Several years ago, several Thanksgivings ago, I woke up and my left arm hurt so bad that I honestly wondered if I could amputate it at home. I was in
Oh, goodness.
agony. And I didn't know why. I'm healthy as a rule. I don't even have a doctor. I mean, I have to go to a walk-in clinic, which I wound up doing. But this went on for a couple of days, and my arm, I have never had that kind of pain ever, and I hope to never have it again. And finally, I turned it over to my subconscious review. I said, what is going on with my arm? I'm not bruised. There's no rash. There's nothing. It just feels like it needs to get gone, which is a terrible way to think about your arm. And at 3:18, I woke up and I wrote it down, shingles. I said, what in the world are shingles? For some reason, I thought that had been eradicated. I think I was thinking of scurvy, but
Yeah, yeah.
I went, okay. So after when I woke up for the last time that morning, which was probably about 5:30, which is when I normally get up and get moving, I looked at my arm. There's a rash. I went to Dr. Google. Oh, goody. And this was like the day before Thanksgiving. I had a turkey to cook. I didn't have
Oh,
time
no.
to cut my arm off. So I couldn't even get dressed myself. I just threw on the biggest t-shirt I had, went to the clinic, and this doctor said, well, what do you think's the problem with you? And I said, shingles. And she said, how do you know? And I just raised my shirt. She said, oh God, shingles. I said, I know. I told you that. It was horrible, and I still have some nerve damage from it. But I would not have known to even think about shingles if my subconscious didn't say, "Oh, you're in trouble."
That's that's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. And you're like, and it sounds weird at first, but then it makes total sense now, I guess, in my mind, because you're like, wait, my body pumps how many gallons of blood every day, without me. That's subconscious, right? That's subconsciously
Absolutely.
your
You're
body
breathing.
is
You're not
doing
thinking that you have
everything.
to breathe, right? I mean,
Every day my body makes 10 million cells.
yep,
And
we're
then
miracles. We really are
but
miracles.
but yet we don't put any faith typically into that, right? And so like you telling me everything, like I grew up very religious, very in the Mormon, got married in there in the Mormon temple, served a mission, and then went a different direction and kind of felt a little sour, I guess, towards it and like towards religion as a whole and faith and all this. And then I'm coming back and I'm like, that's the faith that I believe in. Like you're having the faith that there is a higher intelligence,
Oh,
your
yes.
body or
Yeah.
whatever. And it's like you have to let go. And I mean, how many people are actually that's the opposite of control. What you just described is the opposite of control. I'm just going to let it go and then it comes back. And to me, that's like, oh, that's the faith that I learned about. I just wasn't conceptualizing it correctly.
Do you ever listen to, and I'm glad we're having this conversation. I didn't think this is where we were going to go, but you never can tell. It's a conversation. Do you, have you ever listened to Dr. Joseph Murphy or Neville?
I don't believe so.
I'm going to send you some links. I think you'll enjoy a lot of what they have to say. These guys are long gone, but so much of what I know about myself today, and I just found both of them in the last 2 years. I was like, huh, I'll be darned. But they're
Yeah,
saying a lot of what I'm saying, but I already knew it somehow. It's
the
amazing.
subconscious, like it's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I trust
You
it.
also, what did you say earlier? You said, and then you have to wait and you have to feel it, and that's where I think most people, myself included, up until like I feel like I'm starting to learn how to feel, over the last 3 years or so. But typically, you're not. It's just control. Like I want to control everything. It needs to make sense logically, and that's just how I'm going to run my life. And then that's all conscious mind, and conscious mind is how much, what percentage, like very little of all the information we take in is actually conscious, but we put like 100% of our life's value and like what's guiding our life in in that conscious mind, rather than what you're describing as that subconscious. And you knew that intuitively, probably because, at a younger age, maybe you didn't block all your emotions like I did. you know, I,
No, I did. I did actually. I'm an introvert, highly committed introvert. And you mentioned that you have 9 kids in your house. So did I. 5, sibling. There's me. My mom and dad had 5. I was the oldest. And then she married a man who had 4. So that was 9. I couldn't stand it. They were loud. They were obnoxious. They were loud. And I'm an introvert. And I kept saying, turn the TV off. The TV was always gone. I hate it to this day. And I was miserable. I was really unhappy. So I got very introspective and very quiet. And I blocked, like you, a lot of things because it's like, I don't know what to do with that. But let me tell you another trick that I've got. I'm talking way too much about myself, but this is fascinating. So
well,
bear,
but
bear
this
with
is the
me if
only
you
thing.
would.
Yeah, please do, because I think this is the entrepreneurship is cool, but at the end of the day, it's unfulfilling unless you know this stuff. Is my
And
opinion.
I agree with you, but listen, I take my showers hot enough to steam broccoli. Seriously. And fortunately, I've got high cathedral ceilings, so I haven't peeled the paint off yet, but it'll happen at some point. But I get in there and that's when you're like kind of like your ice bath. I think you're very relaxed at some point and things just kind of start flowing to you. And I'll be in there, and Bennett, we all hear our own voice. We're talking to ourselves constantly. Some of it's like, what the heck did you just say to me? Listen, honestly,
Yeah.
if anybody spoke to me in a Walmart parking lot the way I sometimes hear myself speaking to me, Bennett, I would need bail money. I would be in trouble. But I get in that shower, and once I'm relaxed and I know that nobody's going to bug, I live alone, but still nobody's going to bug me. I'm not going to hear the phone. My brain can quiet down, and it does. And I'll start hearing myself saying, oh, well, I'm going to do this. That's ego. Discount it. It's kind of what you were just talking about. But if I hear we can do this, that's a spiritual download, in my opinion. I take bathtub crayons into the shower with me and I start scribbling all
Oh
over.
my,
I'm
you are so
telling
cool.
you.
You are so cool.
And
You're
I
steaming
write
yourself
it.
like broccoli
Yes, yeah.
with your crowns in the shower. That's amazing.
Right. And I start scribbling all over the walls. And as soon as the steam, it takes a while, but once it dissipates, I go back in there with my phone. I take pictures. I make notes because that was some good information. Then I scrub the walls down and, off I go.
That's so cool. I've your body is taking in however many trillions of bits of information every few seconds. I don't know. I read that somewhere recently, but then you have to pick up like what you're going to focus on, right? And you could focus on the sensation, smell, touch, sight, uh, all of that, or your mind. And it's typically that's what takes most of our attention. It's that voice in our head, and that's where we're putting all of our attention. And that voice always lives in the past or the future, and it's typically not what's that voice is usually what causes every bit of human suffering.
Yeah,
So if you
our
could get
own
away from
biases. We've got some bad biases going on. Biases, I don't know how to say it. Bias, we have a lot of it.
yes, so if you could get out of the paying attention to your thoughts and paying attention instead to the physical sensations, which is you getting into the fridge, right? Like that's a physical sensation that takes you away from your thoughts to then be able to focus on something else that's changing. I think the shower, like extreme temperatures or anything that you could get out of your mind and into your body, um, I think works to get you in that more relaxed state, and then it opens you up to receive the information rather than the compulsive thoughts that are just going all the time in the head.
Well said. And if your creativity, I mean, those of us who are listening to us, if you feel like your creativity has gone, I'm going to go to the Bahamas. I'll see you in about a year or two. Stop doing what you're doing. Relax. Meditate if you can. I can't really. I try. Well, I lie. I can meditate a bit when I call walking meditation with my dog, but I have a squirrel brain. It's always going, going, going,
Yeah.
going. So, I have to find ways like the refrigerator to slow it down and get back into my creativity. There are ways that you can force it or encourage your creativity to come back, but once you've let it go, you're going to have trouble getting it back, I think.
Yes, I felt like I let that go for most of my life because I'm like I mean, sorry, logic, not going off emotion because I don't really understand that. On the meditation though, there's so many different types of meditation, but typically it can be defined as like just mindfulness. So anytime you're being mindful of what's going on. So when you said in the shower, if I say I can do this, you're recognizing that as ego versus we. That's a download of information that you're gonna, put value on. Well, that's you being mindful, right? That's you analyzing your own thoughts rather than
Ooh,
just being consumed by your thoughts. And
I
to me,
like
that's a
that.
meditation.
So you just
You don't
made
have
me
to
feel
stop.
so much smarter.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you don't have to stop your thoughts. You just have to be aware of them, which kind of sounds weird. You're like, I'm always aware of my thoughts, but you're not. If you have a thought and you don't think in your mind, oh, that was an interesting thought, or like usually you're just enveloped by that thought and you are that thought most of the day, right? You're not saying, wow, my brain's thinking. It's just kind of going. So taking that step back and analyzing your thoughts and labeling them as good or bad or productive or non-productive is the first step to change, to see what patterns your mind is in. And then because you can't change, your brain always talking about ego and I could do this unless you first identify it, right?
Well, you listen, you and I have so much in common. I mean, as I was always very left-brained, and you said, I can't remember who it was that said you were stubborn, or my mom would say, you are the most pig-headed person I've ever met. Oh, thanks. I was not offended by that at all. But we, at some point, I had to shift from being proudly left-brained to realizing that I was also a creative. I didn't even know that. I was so left-brained that I didn't realize I was a fabulous creative. Once I started kind of going over that fence a little bit, now I can access either side, left brain, right brain. And I do it all the time, but I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know until you start examining who you are, how you show up in the world.
I agree. I agree. And I want to call it so well before you're like, oh, this is kind of taking it, this is what wasn't expected, but it's a conversation. And I like that. But I'm going to double down a little bit more on like we could talk about entrepreneurs and how to raise millions of dollars and how to sell companies for millions of dollars. But at the end of the day, anybody I mean, from personal experience or anybody that I've known that's done that, it doesn't give you what you're after because what we're after is an emotional state which is internal, but we want to achieve an internal state by controlling the external environment. To as a business owner, that's if I just fix all my business problems, then I'm going to be able to be calm, peaceful, and relaxed. And it's like, nope, because the issue is you will never fix all the problems, and the evidence is right in front of your face. Like, have you ever fixed all of your? Have you ever completed your entire to-do list? No, because it's just a
No.
never-ending to-do list. It just keeps going. But yet, if you ask somebody like, "What is it going to take you to be happier?" They're going to list off basically their to-do list. Like, if I could just accomplish these items, and then you're like, "Well, when has that ever worked? When has your to-do list given you that everlasting happiness? Because if it was everlasting, you wouldn't be looking for it anymore." So I do think like these conversations, even though it's not seen as super entrepreneurial, I think it's what's required before you go into entrepreneurship, or you're
Yes,
on a lot of
I
people get
agree.
into, I mean, you're in a business for 40 years, you don't see your wife, family, kids, and then after the end of the 40 years, you're like, crap, I chose the wrong path. That wasn't fulfilling. And you're like, wait, let's try to start on the fulfilling path today.
Yeah, and they're not speaking to you anymore. I wanted to ask you, chances are they're not speaking to you. Can you
Yeah.
come back? Because, I mean, we do want to go at some point into the things that we were going to talk about. And I think you have a lot to share about expanding your brand's initiative projects and, all the different things that we were going to talk about. And we ran out of time. So I'm asking you on, that's my fault. We ran out of time, but I'm asking you on the radio so you can't tell me no.
Yes, I
Very
love that
tricky.
because I was thinking about saying no, but because it's on the radio, yes. No, I would love to. I would absolutely love to.
Okay, great. Well, we'll get that set up. And I've got several different things that I'm going to send you, Dr. Joseph Murphy, Neville Goddard. I think you'll be fascinated with both of those. And even Greg Braden. I'm going to send you some things that I pay a lot of attention to, and they may be helpful, for you. I wanted to ask you, and we are out of time. I cannot believe it. Is there a key lesson? Or, well, I can believe it because it was a fascinating conversation. Is there a key lesson or a takeaway that you hope listeners will take away from this conversation? I started to say story, but we didn't get there.
Yes.
So this conversation.
To summarize that, I would say your quality of life is not determined by anything other than your thoughts. So you can have two problems in life. Usually your problem is, man, I just have to solve all of these problems. Or you could simplify that problem and say, why do I have so many problems? Problems is perspective. So if I could just focus on why I think I have so many problems, that's the real puzzle in life, is like focusing on getting your thought patterns in the way that you want your thought patterns. That's the number one priority in life. Businesses can help you do that, but if that's not the end goal, I think you're on the wrong track, in my experience at least.
I agree with you. And the next time that we get you on here, I'm going to ask you, what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs who are looking to start their own business, particularly those who are dealing with some similar challenges that we talked about?
Yeah, I would love to share all of that. I love diving into the entrepreneurship, but I also love this, consciousness and mindset. And I learned a ton from you, so I'm excited
Oh,
to go practice this. I'll go report back on the next show.
yeah. I want to know about how many times you hear your refrigerator door going,
Yep, yep.
close the door. Or what is it they say on the subway? Mind the step. Just
Yeah,
don't,
yeah.
don't stick your foot in that step. The door is going to close on you. What is it that you would like to share with the audience before I reluctantly let you go?
On the entrepreneur side,
Any side,
yes.
whatever,
Well,
just
I'll go.
final insights.
Okay, going into entrepreneurship is extremely hard, but and everybody, have all your goals and how much you want to grow and sell and all of that. But if it's not ultimately attached to an emotional goal, like an emotional state that you want to achieve, it's going to be very hard for you to, really just go through the whole journey. So it's if you are like, my goal is joy and fulfillment. So as I make business decisions, I don't say what is going to make me more money potentially, and that's just a guess. I say which of these two investors, if I take this person's money or this person's money, which one is going to bring me joy and fulfillment. So find that emotional goal line that you want to measure your success against, but it has to be an emotional state, not a material object.
Got it. Now, where can people find you if they want to work with you or connect with you or listen to your podcast? Tell them where to go
Yeah.
find you.
BennettMaxwell.com, just my first and last name, and it has the links to the podcast, all my social medias, and Dirty Dough and Craveworthy and my franchise brokerage and all of that stuff.
Oh, tell us about your franchise brokerage. We didn't get to that.
Oh
We can
yeah.
cover that next time, but just give us a little bit of a teaser about that.
Yes, just hyper focusing on what I like and what I'm good at, which is sales. So I'm selling for Craveworthy brands. They're the company that bought Dirty Dough. They have 7 different brands that are franchised. And then Glow Tanning is another one. I'm a franchisee of that brand as well, opening up a few locations here in Utah. And then Cookie Cutters, kids haircutting franchises. So I'm the kind of finding a lead, taking them through the process, the education process, finding needs, signing a franchise agreement, and then handing that off to somebody who's a lot better at the other sides of the business than I am. Oh,
I think I lost you. Cookie
oh, it
cutters.
did.
I have
Okay.
not heard of that.
I thought it lost you. Okay, it's back. Sorry. Yeah, it's a haircutting franchise. It's really cool. They have like 125 locations. They've been around for 30 years. Really cool concept.
Hmm. No, I've not heard of that. Okay, well, listen, everybody. In today's episode, I'm having to stop and think. In today's episode, Bennett Maxwell, the founder and chairman of Dirty Dough, shared his incredible. Are you still the founder and chairman, or do I have that wrong?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Sorry. No, that's right.
Okay, I'm going to start that part over. I'll cut that out. In today's episode, Bennett Maxwell, founder and chairman of Dirty Dough, shared his incredible journey from his early days in solar energy to transforming Dirty Dough into a thriving franchise known for its unique cookies and mental health advocacy. There's not two things that you would think would go together, but I don't know. We eat and we need mental health. So there is that. And he opened up about how he integrated his values into his business, creating a brand that not only delights customers with its creative cookies, but also inspires them with its commitment to mental wellness. I don't know about you, cookies make me happy. So there's some mental wellness right there. So, and anyway, if here's what I'd like to ask the audience. If you enjoyed today's conversation with Bennett Maxwell, be sure to follow us for more inspiring stories of entrepreneurship and personal growth. And he will be back soon. I forced him on the show. You can learn more about Dirty Dough and Bennett's journey on his website, bennettmaxwell.com, and through his Deeper Than Dough podcast. So if you found his story and his advice impactful, we invite you to take the next step. Subscribe to this podcast at yourpartnerinsuccessradio.com. That's me, or on Apple for more conversation with truly visionary leaders who are shaping industries and inspiring change. Bennett, thank you. This has been absolutely delightful, and I can't wait to have you come back on the show.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.